Happy Memorial Day, everybody. It seems to be a part of the human journey that we go through doubt. It's a part of how we're made. We're made, in part, to go through the doubting process. Think of Job. Job was an upright man, but in this particular book, which is actually considered by theologians to be poetry, it's not a narrative and it's not prophecy, but the book of Job is given to us for a deep insight about doubting, trial, suffering, and perseverance. And perseverance is that stick-to-it spirit that the Lord gives us. Even when everything seems completely beyond help, you just keep going. That's what the book of Job is about, because all of his livestock was killed. And you heard there in reading from the Word about how many thousands of livestock were killed. His servants, his helpers were killed. His sons and daughters were killed. And do you know what happened to Job himself in the book? He develops sores all over his body. He was so miserable that he would rub himself to get the sores off. And he even cursed the day that God made him. He was that miserable. He had lost everything and everyone that he loved, and persevered. He kept talking with God. There came a day where he was so miserable that he put his hand up and said, I curse the day you even made me. I'm so miserable. But he kept talking. He kept saying, Lord, I'm miserable. What are you doing? I'm miserable. There was a period where Job went through tremendous doubting, tremendous agony. And for a man who is good, we know that it's painful to doubt. We don't want to doubt. But we are so miserable that we just go, oh my God, maybe God, maybe God isn't who I thought God was. Maybe I've done something wrong to deserve this suffering. Maybe we doubt ourselves. His friends even left him. His friends emotionally left him and said, this is your fault, Job, for suffering. So he lost his friends on top of everything else. And so Job is one of these stories that points us to the truth that if we just hang on, God will get us through. Think about Jesus on the cross. What was the cry that he said while he was dying? He was literally starting to die. And he says, Father, why have you forsaken me? Even our Lord. It's a part of how we're made. We're made in part to go through doubts. It's okay. Even our Lord in the Garden of Gethsemane, he knew that the soldiers were getting ready to come take him away to crucify him. And he said, Father, if you could take this cup from me. Even then, even though all his life was culminating to the point of what was going to happen, Father, if you could, please, take it. And then we think about our soldiers, that we've heard families, we've heard soldiers themselves, men and women, who go through tremendous suffering and questions, doubts. We think about soldiers in Vietnam who didn't even believe in their cause. My uncle went through that and came home not welcomed by his own family because of what he had to do. And so we know that our soldiers and our families go through doubts and questions and how painful that is. But it seems to be a part of the design of this life, a part of being human. And there's a redemptive process going on in us when we suffer. Whether we suffer from tremendous illness and pain, we suffer from the loss of loved ones, whether we have no access to the loved ones that we know are alive, whether in family alienation or whether it is in military war. There is a redemptive process in pain and suffering. What does that mean? That means that there's a deeper divine purpose running through us that will bring good out of the pain. When the Apostle Paul said, he encouraged us, he said, I encourage you to meet your trials with joy. Now, when you're in the middle of suffering, how does that sound?
Not too good.
Ridiculous.
What?
Ridiculous, yeah.
Are you crazy, Paul? Sorry. What? I mean, can you imagine, the loss of loved ones and the suffering that we go through in different levels and different ways. And the Apostle Paul is giving us advice that sounds ridiculous and unrealistic in the middle of it. What is he talking about? There is a redemption that's going on inside of us. There is a higher purpose moving through what we're going through. So in a way, every time we go through pain and suffering and sadness and incredible trial, we can keep a place inside our minds. And this is realistic to me. We can keep a place inside of us that says, that's kind of, we can just keep it as a secret place, like a room tucked inside, that says, trials and suffering are going to happen for all of us. We all have different crosses we bear, different sufferings. But if we can keep in our mind that there's something redemptive for us and through us for others that's happening and we may not see it, it is so important to do that. And if we don't do it, true despair comes. And I know we've all been there. Why is this happening to me? I've tried to live the best I can. I haven't hurt anybody. I haven't tried to hurt anybody. I've tried to do my best. I've been in prayer my life. I've tried to do good for others. I've given of my own resources. I've given of my life, my time. When I was tired, I gave. Why? And it's that empty place, that redemptive place, where we have been flattened, where things have been so hard that our negative ego, we have a positive ego, by the way, but our negative ego gets completely flattened and we are done. You ever been just so done? And you lose your fight. And you just kind of lay flat. There was a period when I was sick, when I was first starting the ministry, and I was so done that I couldn't even sleep on my bed. I slept on the floor. I was too depressed. I didn't even feel like I wanted to sleep on something soft. I just had to be flat, prostrate on the ground, and I fell asleep every night on my floor next to my kitty cats. I was that depressed and that sick. But that's the point where we get to despair and we're empty. We feel empty. We have nothing left. We can't try anymore. But see, when we get empty, someone walks in. Something of divine in the universe comes in where we are empty. This is so important. When we have nothing left and we feel terrible and we have no more anything in us to try and we're just about to quit, there's room for the Divine One to enter in. There's space for something new. When our heads are full and we have all these ideas, when we think we've got it, when we think we can take control of the situation, I don't need God this time. God, you can stay right over there. I think I've got this one. There's no room in our heads for a visitor. We need to keep space. We need to keep room for the Holy One, however you define that presence to be. For me, it's a risen Lord. It's the Lord. He came to me in my sleep when I was in college, and I was bulimic, and I wasn't good. I wasn't being good to myself. And I had a dream, and the risen Lord came to me, and he changed everything. Everything that was empty, that I was trying to fill with sweet foods and yummy ice cream, and I was trying to feel better. And then I realized it wasn't working. And I had a dream, and he came to me. So that's why I believe in him. But I visit a lot of people who don't have a feeling for our risen Lord, but maybe they feel the divine energy and love in all of creation. Maybe in the Native American, the spirit animals. Maybe in the Hindu or the Buddhist approach. Whatever you feel divinity in your approach, for me it's a risen divine human presence that came to me and brought everything that was empty into a place of overflowing fullness. I wasn't just full, I was overflowing. And it's never stopped. That's why I am tireless in helping humanity, because I was so helped by this divine human presence. So when we have our heads full of our own ideas and our own plans, the divine one can't come in. We're too full, we're too busy. And we have real needs, and we have real thoughts, and we have a life to live, and we have responsibilities. And we do have the responsibility to keep a clear space so that that divine one can walk right in. I would like to tell you a very brief true story now of a Vietnam veteran who was shot in such a way that he couldn't move and he couldn't speak. And his comrades, because he couldn't move and speak, his comrades thought that he was dead. So they locked his body onto a pile of other dead comrades. And he was laying there, and he realized, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And guess what happened? He said in that moment, he had a near-death experience where first he saw light, the light of God, fill his mind. And then he received the message that you're going to be okay. And he was rescued. He was an atheist. He wasn't an atheist after that. He knew there was something loving and very strong and very protective that was watching out. It wasn't his time to die. We all have a time to live and a time to die. It wasn't his time. And so he was contacted and he was reached by that moment. He had a redemptive moment. He had a redemptive moment. When we experience such pain and suffering as we do, as we go through this journey called life, and we all have it, we all suffer, and some of us more than others at any moment. But when we go through that time, it can be a tremendous opportunity. It can be a transformative moment and can lift us out of the valley of the shadow of death. It literally can, and it can within a despair that we hold in us. Maybe we put on a good show, but we go about our days actually quite depressed. But these things can be the beginning of light. These empty, despairing moments that our soldiers feel sometimes, that our Lord felt, that Job felt. This is where the light comes. It can begin. It's where healing can begin. This is what Job knew. This is what is true for you. So it's very helpful to remember, if not anything else, the first and simplest comprehension of this message today is that I encourage you to have a real and seemingly irrational trust. Seemingly irrational trust in our Lord. When everything seems impossible, keep going. Because redemption is taking place, not only for you. It's not only about us. But if we live through our trial, whatever our trial is, if we live physically, I guarantee you it will also help others. That's the way the Lord works. If it's our time to die, that is the end of that season for us, and we move on into the light, and other things follow. But if it's not our time to die, we will be saved, and we will know who saves us, and we will also then be that ripple effect for others. We will be a blessing in His name. Amen.
Amen.